Affirmative action and how it affects African American college students. Affirmative action first emerged from debates over non-discrimination policies in the 1940s and during the Civil Rights Movement. Debates led to federal executive orders requiring non-discrimination in the employment policies of some government agencies in the 1940s onwards. Also to the Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prohibited racial discrimination in firms with over 25 employees. Affirmative action involves steps being taken to increase the representation of women and minorities in areas of employment, education, and business from which they have been historically excluded.
It ought to be possible, therefore, for American students of any color to attend any public institution they select without having to be backed up by troops. It ought to be possible for American consumers of any color to receive equal service in places of public accommodation, such as hotels and restaurants and theaters and retail stores.
So why is it that something as trivial as affirmative action is still debated in the 21st century when racism is frowned upon, the law has begun to be forthcoming to the needs of civilization, and America is seen as the epitome of all things diverse? We often see ads displaying students from different walks of life and of different ethnicities having fun in college, portraying the wonders of higher education. But is it accurate to say that affirmative action justifies the past treatment of African Americans? Research points to no, but many people still believe otherwise. My video will portray the many examples of affirmative action negatively impacting African American college students. Affirmative action heavily and negatively
So what's really the deal
impacts
with affirmative
and
action?
affects the lives of African American college students because 1. Its process belittles African American education. 2. It demeans the work that African Americans have done and will do when they enter into the workforce. And 3. It puts a strain on the mental health of its so-called beneficiaries. Affirmative action policies were enabled to make the opportunity for minority education more abundant and progressive. But the plan has succeeded in effectively belittling education for African American student recipients. Published studies have determined overall African American admissions to prestigious colleges dropped significantly when the affirmative action policy was not used to admit students into the school. Many people interpreted that result to mean that African American success was dependent upon the affirmative action program. The importance of African American education is challenged by the admissions offices as well. Most people think of admissions boards as groups of people who factor in numerous reasons why an applicant should or should not be admitted into their college. Ideally, that is what's supposed to happen. Because of affirmative action, universities have been accepting students mostly because of their race so that the university can meet a set quota for their student population. As a result, the African American students who are thrown into these competitive schools without the just skills or resources to meet the school's expectations are seen as just another statistic when they do not do so well and end up dropping out of school. According to University of Connecticut professor Mary J. Fisher in her published articles, it seems that the odds are stacked up against minority students, and the affirmative action policy does not change that fact. Richard Sander, who is a professor at University of California School of Law, along with American journalist Stuart Taylor, discussed how universities knowingly put students in classes that they are not prepared for, causing them to lose confidence in their academic skill and underperform. They refer to the policy as a doorway to failure for minority students. The premises of affirmative action puts African American students at odds with other ethnicities and races at the college, such as Asian and Caucasian students. The outlook on African American students by their classmates tends to be hostile due to the notion that other races of students must work harder to get where they are, while black students supposedly just have to be born black and get through school with decent averages. That claim is attested in the article Affirmative Action, Duality of Error, and the Consequences of Mispredicting the Academic Performance of African American College Applicants. The article states that universities have been proven to hold African American applicants at a lower standard of evaluation than applicants of other races. Affirmative action policies within the workforce involve practices to increase hire for minorities, women, and people with disabilities. However, equality is not achieved due to the circumstances surrounding the policy and the effects the policy puts on the applicants for a particular job that operates using affirmative action hiring. Affirmative action within the workplace is highly frowned upon because the premises of it promotes unequal treatment. When an employer within an affirmative action practicing company is reviewing applications for a job, the employer is often compelled to overlook highly qualified applicants in favor of an applicant who happens to be a minority, but does not have as many highlights on their application. The reason for this is that the companies aim to uphold a set quota. A quota, in this case, is a set number of positions designated by the affirmative action policy that the company wants to go to minority applicants or other applicants who qualify as being within the group that the policy is supposed to help employ. Employees who were helped out by affirmative action are seen as unqualified, and more often than not, people doubt that they are the best person for the position. The company becomes split between those workers who feel like they earned their position and the employees who are brought into the company because of their race or ethnicity. Work relations can become very strained because of the mentioned sentiments. Uncomfortable work situations, harassment, and other factors that stem from the affirmative action policy divide those within the workplace instead of bringing the company and its employees together as one entity. Affirmative action policies in the workplace are harmful to minorities who wish to find their footing within the workplace because it places the focus on racial and/or gender-related issues when the attention should be solely on how the applicant performs within their desired field. Affirmative action also puts excessive stress on the African American psyche. It is stressful to know that the system believes that the efforts of African Americans are not good enough to stand on their own without mention of race. The affirmative action policy makes people less motivated and creates a division among classmates, workers, and in people in general. The policy can lead to depression, decreased self-worth, and anxiety accumulated throughout life. Affirmative action effectively hurts the mentality of African Americans and negatively shapes them. In conclusion, affirmative action has effectively belittled hard work and the strengths that African Americans have within our society. While it may have had positive intentions when it was first implemented, it is now not needed if we want to progress as a nation. Whether it be evaluated in terms of education, the workplace, or mental health, we need to finally admit that affirmative action is not the answer, but a negative reaction to a serious problem. If affirmative action continues, future generations will become less motivated and more dependent. We have to band together to ensure that true equality prevails. It's time for a change, and that change starts with you.